Nā mai haere mai and welcome to this council meeting of the 29th of May 2025. Welcome to elected members, councillors, community board members, council staff. We have quite a full public gallery today. We've got a number of quite interesting items on our agenda, including, of course, the adoption of our annual plan. So I'll start with the council blessing. Ia mātou e whiriwhiri ana i ngā take ke mua i o mātou araoro. E pono ana mātou ka kaha tonu ki te whakapau mahara huapai mō ngā hapori e mahi ne mātou. Me kaha hoki mātou katoa ki a whaihua ki a tō tika tā mātou mahi. A, mata maia, te tura whakamua me te hihiri, ka taia te arahi i roto i te kotahitanga me te aroha. So we've got some apologies today. Councillor Rob Coford is on a leave of absence. We've got an apology from Denise Happerton, ngā hapa o Otaki. We note that Councillor Cooper will need to leave the meeting from 1 to 2 p.m. We'll try and time things around that as best we can. Thank you, Coops. And we also have an apology from Mr. Bede Larissy. Any further apologies? Can I have a mover for those apologies? Moved by Councillor Pravanov, seconded by Councillor Hanford. All in favour? Aye. Against? That's carried. Any declarations of interest? Nothing under 5 or 6?
Yes, sorry.
Yes.
In relation to the health, the polyclinic,
Yep.
I contract to Te Ora Compass Health, which is invested in as a primary health organisation. Invested in health, so I'll just reserve the right to abstain on the vote.
Okay, that's noted. Thank you very much. So we move on to public speaking. And first I have Royd Sampson. Royd, are you here? No, Royd? Maria McKee. And we have a written, yes please. We have a written submission from Maria on LG Hub, for those of you who'd like to pull that up for reference. Welcome, Maria. You have 3 minutes, and then we'll have a couple of minutes for questions if required.
Kia ora. My name is Maria McKee. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak regarding the renaming of Main Road Waikanae. In 1902, Mahara House was built with the entrance of Main Road Waikanae. In 1907, sections on Main Road were for sale. Today, the Main Road has many businesses and homes who have always had their addresses as Main Road Waikanae. These businesses and homes want that name to remain. Council state in today's agenda that Main Road Waikanae is a named segment of the former State Highway 1 and advise Main Road Waikanae is an acceptable option. Land Information New Zealand advised that Main Road Waikanae is an official name and the existing road names and addresses of Main Road Waikanae are fine and are consistent with the ASNZ standard. However, there is a main street in the Otaki township which is 18 k's away. This is where Maryland Hub is located. This is within the Kapiti Coast district. The Australian and New Zealand Road Standard advise that the name element of the road name shall not be the same as an existing road name, where the existing name is in the same local government area. Main Road Waikanae and Main Road Otaki are in the same local government area. During previous council briefings, council officers said they need to recommend a name change and to provide advice in line with the standard and their own road naming policy to avoid name duplication within the district. Changing the name would mean you would avoid the risk of confusion with emergency services and those who dial 111. Council's road naming policy says council can initiate a change of name to correct duplication or ambiguity within the district or region if this is causing issues for emergency services. This process must involve consultation required for effective residents and a minimum of 75% of responses must be in favour of the recommended change. This part of the policy has not been followed. Police and emergency services have confirmed there have been no confusion with the names Main Road Waikanae and Main Street Otaki. Finally, I would like to respectfully acknowledge the working party who were asked to provide names for the sections of road. The work involved in the gifting of these names has significant meaning, and it is not my intention to diminish the mana of the name given. However, I believe Council were hasty and incorrect in asking for a name for Main Road Waikanae. As stated by Council officials, Main Road Waikanae is an acceptable option for this road, and I ask Council to vote to keep it Main Road Waikanae. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Councillor Pravanov.
Oh, okay. Thank you for coming along to speak today. So, this renaming exercise has been going on for a very long time. I'm wondering, and you talked about consultation, were you part of the consultation that occurred probably in about 2016, 2017?
We were not living in that region then, no. So that's the other thing. There are a lot of people who've come into Waikanae in the last 6-7 years who know nothing about this whole road naming.
Yes, that's fair enough. Thank you very much.
Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, I just want to take up Maria's point about that. The consultation that happened 9 years ago, and the population, as you will be aware, has changed significantly in that time. So I think that it is apt that the new voices are being heard. I just wanted to thank you for your what you've sent in. It's quite comprehensive and very good. Thanks.
Yeah, I'd like to talk with that. Thank you. Your written submission is very detailed and clear as well, so thank you. Councillor Cooper?
Hi, thank you for your submission and coming along. There is an argument, which I don't actually agree with, but there's an argument that Main Road Waikanae is not very imaginative, and there's an opportunity to refresh the name and have something that's a bit more forward-thinking than Main Road. There's like 10,000 main roads all around New Zealand. What would your response to that be? Here's an opportunity as opposed to Main Road Waikanae.
I'm not in favour of renaming it at all because it is the name. I agree there are lots of main roads around, but this is our road. This is our main road, not So yeah.
Okay.
It's our identity. You're part of Waikanae's identity.
Yes, and just to on that consultation, do you think consultation that took place in 2016 is relevant to 2025 moving into 2026? Or should we go back and rethink that in terms of your stretch of road?
Council officer said there's no money in the budget to reconsult. I think in hindsight, this council may make a different decision on all the sections, but yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your presentation today, Maria. Much appreciated. Before I go on, I'd like to acknowledge that we have Rawari Tawhai Bosworth online from Te Atiawa ki Whakarongotai and Huruai Paki from Ngāti Tua Rangatira. Next we have David Jennings, who's also provided a written submission.
With your indulgence, Nicola Taylor's here.
Absolutely.
On the same subject.
So I have David Jennings and
Councillors,
Nicola
hello.
Taylor.
Mayor, hello.
Good morning.
As introduced, I'm Dave Jennings. I was part of a group that undertook response to the consultation in 2017, was when we...
I'll just swing your microphone just a little bit towards you so that you can pick it up
Is
on the
that
live
better?
stream. That's much better, thank you.
Do I need to cover that again? I was
maybe.
part of the consultation group,
Yeah.
and we took it to the community board at that time. Look, I'm concerned that the process and the recommended options to take no account of the council policy on this. The previous speaker mentioned the policy. I distributed a copy of the policy through. In particular, there are 2 points to note, and well, there's lots of points to note, but in particular, that in the objectives, it is up to the community board to decide if the road involved is entirely within their district. I've just mentioned that because it became clear that the one road across the region option was discounted quite early. So therefore, the bit of road we're talking about, Main Road South, is entirely within the community board district as it was at that time. The other key point is the requirement for changing a name requires 75% approval of residents, affected residents. Okay, and the policy covers iwi consultation, it covers a range of things, but that's very clear in the policy that 75% of residents must go along with it. And it was clear from that time, and we took that to the community board, that the residents did not support it. It was more like 75% were against it at that time. Public records, as touched on, Main Road South we're talking about, not Waikanae, but it's clear that Public Records Council's own records, New Zealand Post, all recognise Main Road South. That's how everything's addressed. My businesses were registered there. I think a couple might still be, and they shouldn't be. I get it that the council decision, it's a council decision if it was to be one contiguous road across the district. It's not, so therefore, in my view, the community board decision from 2017 stands. It was taken in good faith with the residents involved, and what's changed. I take the point that the district's grown, and in particular, Main Road South is going to get 26 new, at least, houses on it very soon. Nonetheless, so the other thing I need to speak to is the standard that's been here. The criteria was selective key bits taken out of standards and other documents. But if we look at the standard for naming roads, clause 1.3.3 talks about not having to be retrospective. Let's be clear about that. The standard is fine for new roads and forward-thinking change. In summary, the process that council has followed in this renaming is not consistent with its own policy, and I urge that Main Road South remain.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Pravanov.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, thank you for coming along today. So in 2016 and 17, I was the chair of the Waikanae Community Board. I'm now the Waikanae Ward Councillor. So as you said, there's no, well, as has been previously said, there's no more money for consultation, but consultation was done. And so there's two arguments that have been going on saying we're not actually going to listen to what the community and the community board said, but we're not going to do any more consultation. So what is your view about whether, so what you're saying is that the views of the community and the community board should be taken into consideration for making this decision if there's no more consultation,
Yes.
which in some respects probably should occur.
Yeah, yes, that's what I believe, and I believe while there's been a change in the residents on that road, I don't believe the view of the majority has changed much.
So I have to say the community board did a thorough job.
They did.
They do not have that consultation. They do not have that a delegation now. It comes straight to this council table. Thank you.
So the policy changed, is what I'm hearing?
The policy about it's something to do with road naming, but it's not going to come back to the community board. It comes straight to this council for the decision to make. Even previously, it was a recommendation from the community board that then is decided by council, but there's no part where the community board can
I'm not
actually...
entirely sure that the submission focused on that particular area. Could you please limit your questions
Yes.
to the content of the submission by the submitter rather
Yes.
than general
Yeah,
debate?
yeah. So
Thanks,
I
Councillor Pravanov.
asked my question. I was just clarifying some points. So thank you. Thank you.
I guess I would take the view that what has changed since 2017, and that decision was taken in good faith by all involved. The street mobilised. The opposition was strong. It's quite passionate in some areas. Anyway,
Yeah.
what's changed?
So I've just got a question. So paragraph 26 of our report says the use of names Main Road North and Main Road South, specifically the suffixes such as Road North and Road South, are not permitted by section 4.7.10 of AS/NZS 4819/2011 Rural and Urban Addressing. Do you have a comment about that?
That relates to my comment that the standard clause 1.3.3 doesn't require retrospectivity of corrections.
Great, thank you. Johnny?
Thank you for coming along. I was chair of the community board, I think, at the time,
Cool.
and I know the answer to this question, but I'd like to hear it.
Good on you.
But I'd like to hear it from you.
Yep.
The role of community boards is to advocate on behalf of the community
Yes.
and make recommendations to council. Do you think we fulfilled our role properly in this case?
Yes, I do. The support from that community board at that time was strong and clear. I'd like to think it was from the depth of the feeling that came from the residents. And also at the time the policy was clear that it was a community board decision if it wasn't a full road.
Okay. My other question is, what do you feel the consequences are if the recommendations of the community board are not considered as part of the recommendation for the renaming of this road?
Short-term confusion, cost of change for businesses that have registered addresses there. Nikki will touch on that, I think. Is that, but I guess the will will go on.
My other question is, I know at the time the board actually did make those recommendations for Main Road North and Main Road South, but we also made a recommendation for an overarching name for the entire stretch that was being, which is part of the revocation process. Do you think there's an opportunity there to get, I mean, I think the board actually thought that there was actually going to be, it could possibly be a marketing thing for the Kapiti Coast and for tourism and all that sort of thing as well. Do you think that's a good idea?
It's not one I've ever supported. Across different towns, it gets confusing, in my view. Brand New Street, Paraparam, Brand New Street, Waikanae, Brand New Street, Otaki.
Yeah, it was just going to be an overarching name for the entire stretch, that's all.
Yeah.
But Main Road North and Main Road South would still
Main Road
be there.
South, to me, has a particular, it's not in common use. The north is multiple use. The south is strong. There's 51 residents along there. Soon to be 70.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for coming along too.
Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Dave and Nicola. Dave raised a really interesting question, and that is that if council, at the time, if the council decision, and when we come to debate this, I'd just chance for people to have a think about, but Dave has raised the point about it was a council decision if it was going to be one name. So if council decided it was going to be one name, that would be a council decision. But if it's not going to be one name, and it's going to be more than one name, 2, 3, however many, then the community board responses at the time that the policy was that's what we would relate to. So just thank you, and I'm sure that will be part of the discussion, right? Yeah.
That's certainly something we need to clarify. Thank you.
Yeah, and
Thank you
also
for bringing
just
that
a
to our
clarification around the retrospective, so that names like Main Road South, etc. And I also wonder, to the point that you've made, if we do go to one name, would it then be, whatever the name happens to be, Glen Cooper Boulevard, Raumati, or Glen Cooper Boulevard Waikanae, or Glen Cooper Boulevard Otaki? Do you know what I mean? So how would you separate that out? But anyway, good. Yeah, great.
Yeah, there's a few unanswered questions around some of this since we last considered it. So thank you so much for coming along and raising your concerns.
I'll stay and support Nikki in her turn, if that's okay.
Sure.
She's the next speaker.
Yeah. Okay, Nicola. I was just allowing double time because there were two of you,
okay.
but we can go on. That's fine. We're not in a hurry.
Good morning. So I'm a long-time resident and ratepayer who currently lives on Main Road South. One of the affected sections of the road, the council wanting to rename. My address is also the base for my long-established family business. So yeah, it does impact quite severely if we do get a name change. I'm concerned that the council have not listened to the submissions of the affected residents or the community board and are instead preferring to acknowledge the working party's efforts over the wishes of the residents of Main Road South. In 2017, the residents strongly opposed the change, and this was backed by the Paparam Raumati Community Board at the time. So why is the council choosing not to acknowledge these recommendations or the wishes of the residents, both of which wanted to retain the name of Main Road South? The council's summary of submissions notes that the highest support for the Section 2 name was for Main Road South, with 51 submissions, compared to the council's working group recommendation of 7 submissions. A big difference, and it should not be ignored. In the council's own road naming and street numbering policy, 2011, it states under clause 12, for roads that start and end within a community board's community, as this stretch of road did in 2017, the decision should be the community boards. Just following on from that, the council have stated in today's agenda that no further engagement is planned at this stage, so they should therefore follow their own policy and use the endorsement of the Paparam Raumati Community Board of 2017, which was to retain the Main Road South name. The road has been known as Main Road South for a very long time. I provided a map dated in 1908 showing it as a main road, which suggests it has a historical context. Public records, in particular New Zealand Post and the council's own website, have my address listed as Main Road South. Council rates, election papers are all addressed to me at Main Road South. I've never had anyone be confused by my address in 30 years that I've lived there. And that includes emergency services and delivery and courier services. There's no renaming required. The road has a name, it's called Main Road South. Plain and simple. The council need to listen to the residents and the 2017 Community Board and keep it as it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Pravanov.
Yeah, thank you to the chair. If the road names are changed, how do you think that is going to affect those residents getting their election papers for the upcoming local body elections?
Probably not a great deal. I mean, but it all comes to Main Road South now, so it's not going to be, I mean, it's not a confusing name, that's what I'm saying. They're saying that that it's not a confusing name, it's fine as it is, don't change it, don't rename it, that's what I'm saying. So I guess postal services will still come regardless of the name, but it doesn't need to be changed, it's not confusing.
Thank you. Councillor Cooper.
Thanks for your submission. So when you, on your mail,
Yep.
do you go Main Road South, Raumati, or
Yep.
Parapara-Umu?
I go Main Road South, Raumati, Parapara-Umu.
So would your neighbours do Paparam or Parapara-Umu or Raumati, or does it matter?
I don't think it matters, but the Raumati bit clarifies.
I always use Parapara.
And you get your mail?
Yep.
Yep. Awesome, thank you. Thanks for the submission. It's good to hear.
Mr. Best, Johnny.
Thank you for coming. I'll ask the same question that I did for the previous speaker.
Yep.
What will be the consequences for you if the road is not named Main Road South? Well, not just for you, but for everybody.
I think the consequences are that's what I've always, that's where I live, that's who I am, where I come from, and I don't want that to change.
And are you aware of any emergencies or emergency services getting confused by the name?
No, never.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for taking part of the consultation back in 2017.
Thank you.
I'm not seeing any more questions. Thank you very much for taking the time to come along today for
Thank
the
you.
second time in a decade.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
And with your indulgence, we won't stay for the rest of the business.
No worries. Laura Boyle. Kia ora, Laura. Laura, welcome.
G'day. Sorry, I'm not as prepared as everyone else. I only found out about this on Sunday, which is kind of annoying because I am a resident of Main Road North in Otahanga. A recent resident as of 2020, so I wasn't part of the first lot of consultation. I like Main Road North. My mail comes through Main Road North. My power bills are sent to Main Road North. My kids know their address as Main Road North. I went through when we first we built here, and when we first built, I went through the issue of getting my mail sent to Main Road North, and I asked council for a suggestion as to who I deliver it to, whether it be Old State Highway, and they gave me Main Road North. That has worked ever since. Our courier, delivery people, taxis, everything, it works. It's not broken, so why fix it? Yeah, it's interesting because I had a look at the agenda, and it says that it doesn't meet the Australian and New Zealand standards for LINs. My understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is these are just standards. This isn't law. Council has the ultimate power to decide what it's named. The standards are just a guideline. I had a quick look. Waikato have a Main Road North. Upper Hutt have a Main Road North. It works for them. I don't know why it can't work for us. Sorry, this is just scribbles on a piece of paper. Yeah, there was no consultation with us, which I'm not actually sure, and the council might be able to let me know whether that's legal under Section 83 if 9-year-old consultation is still relevant. However, it is relevant to me because I agree with that outstanding consultation. I think that Main Road North, Main Road South, it seems to work. But it's just one of those things is I don't actually know if you can rule on old legislation, old consultation. What else have I got? It's not going to cost anything or very little if we leave it as status quo. Most residents, most businesses have it as either Main Road North, Main Road South. So any compensation will be very limited as opposed to if you completely renamed it as a rates payer with the rates going up. I'm pro spending no money. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. How this would affect me is, yeah, it's going to be a royal pain in the behind, to be honest. It works. Yeah, it's not broken. I don't know. I mean, this is obviously an old thing that you're going over. I don't know whether it's because of funding, if it's because of, obligations you have to meet. But it's not broken. Please don't fix it. Please don't waste our money. Please don't cause pain and just nuisance to all of us. Can we please just continue? Yeah, that's me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cooper?
Yeah,
Hi.
thanks for your submission. It's nice to see you. So I'm taking out of what you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you see this as change for the sake of change,
Yep. Correct.
and that's not, in you view that as good or bad?
I don't know why you're doing it. This is what I don't, and as I said, I wasn't here back in 2017, but we have been residents since 2020. So this is 5 years now, and it's working for us. I get it's an old thing, but it's not broken. it works.
So understanding the why is always at the heart of most things, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Laura. Appreciate you coming along. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh,
Bernie.
am I allowed to go?
Yeah, you can go whenever you Yes. Ka kite. Bernie.
Yeah. Sorry, good morning, everyone. Now, everyone sitting behind me definitely wants a better Kapiti, but can I say the same for councillors? You councillors all voted to deliberately exclude community board members from having any say on the naming of the old state highway. In this triennium, you deliberately voted. Community boards usually approve street names. Johnny Best is correct with what he's been saying. One councillor tried to tell me community boards have no say on naming of state highways. But this is not a state highway anymore. It's deceased. It's extinct. It has ceased to be. At first glance, you might think it's just names, but let's take a moment to recognise that a name is far more than a label. It's an identity, a reflection of history, community and culture. And in this case, the proposed names utterly fail to honour any of these things. And how do we get here? Did the council consult the people who actually live and work here? 8 years ago they did. And Johnny has mentioned what happened 8 years ago, and the community boards came up, and normally community boards always approve street names. Community boards came up with a mixture of iwi and European names. Council at the time wanted all 7 iwi names to be approved. And when they weren't, obviously said, we are not going to consult this time. Bad decision. When these names were presented to TWOC in 2024, I am surprised one ward councillor who was present did not reveal what was proposed to his community board. Secrecy, secrecy, secrecy. So I asked this council, why was this decision made without proper community input? Why were names chosen that do not honour the voice of all the people it affects? We deserve better. A name should connect us to our past, guide us into our future, and carry a sense of place and purpose, not leave us shaking our heads in confusion. Because this is our home and we deserve better. Thank you. No question.
Thank you, Bernie. So now we have Michael Papish. Yeah, that's fine.
Brilliant, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today on the adoption of the annual plan and the 6.9% rates increase. I'm speaking today on behalf of Concerned Ratepayers Kapiti, as the chair is currently overseas. Normally, we would highlight to you that the planned 6.9% rates increase means that average rates will be 25% higher than they were 2 years ago. Normally, we would highlight to you that this is massively above CPI inflation and even above the movement in local government cost index. We'd speak about the burden that these increases are having on ratepayers, especially those on low incomes. We could highlight that council rates is the second biggest contributor to New Zealand's inflation rate, and this council is perpetuating a cost-plus pricing model. We could have highlighted that this plan locks in a 50% increase in staffing costs over the last 3 financial years, and the increase in staffing cost per FTE over the same time is 25%. But there's no point talking to you about these things because Concerned Ratepayers has simply concluded that you just don't care. So you're going to stick with these rates increases no matter what the impact is on your community. So instead, we're going to talk about 3 other aspects of the annual plan. The first is the most notable feature of this plan is that you had initially lost control of costs to such an extent that rates would have gone up by even more than you could bear. So you found savings. In doing so, you've blown your cover. A large part of your narrative about rates, why rates must go up by so much, is that it's forced upon you by forces outside of your control. You talk about cost pressures, that local government costs increase faster than CPI, new regulatory burdens, the activities forced upon you by central government, of new charges that are imposed upon you. You then like to discuss about how good you are to keep rates increases at 25%, notwithstanding all those forces, and how good you are because other councils have even less control over costs than you do. Except, when rates would have increased by even more than you could bear, you found savings. You chose to cut costs. You chose to cut staff. You chose to reduce some grant spending. But you could have chosen to reduce some of those costs by even more, because there are plenty of opportunities to do so. So what you have done is confirm that the level of rates increases are not the result of KCDC being buffeted by forces outside of your control. The level of rates increase is in fact a choice. You could have made extra decisions that would have reduced this year's rate rise even further, but you chose not to. A 25% rates increase is not an inevitability enforced upon you. Second, a few weeks ago, many residents received a letter in their mail about flood mapping. These letters arrived unannounced, with no background, no context, and include the immortal words, "The final maps will help you understand the implications for your insurance cover." The final product will inevitably end up on limbs. Concerned Ratepayers has previously spoken to you about how to engage with your community. But even for this council, this approach to engaging your residents on something so fundamental to your residents as their insurability, this is a shocker. There may be perfectly good reasons for you to do this work, but what you see as a technical exercise could have some profound effects on residents. You need to work out an engagement approach that works with residents rather than seemingly work against them. Third, we all received this pamphlet with our rates bill. One of our committee members noticed that the table at the back of it doesn't add up. We could think of this as a metaphor for the annual plan, that it doesn't add up. But actually, this is more of a systemic issue for this council. We have seen official information responses where the rows and columns of figures don't add up either. And to make it worse, another one of our committee members noticed that the CapEx numbers for the access and transport activity on page 57 of the annual plan, that's page 60 in your consultation, on your appendices document, well, they don't add up either. The column for the AP 25-26 in that table is out by over $9 million. Because this is a table itemising capital projects, an error on this table would have flow-on effects for the forecast cash flow statement, balance sheet, debt calculations, debt headroom, interest and depreciation calculations. In my first draft of this talk, I was going to have some fun and cheekily suggest that the council invest in Microsoft Excel, because this would solve your problems. However, this is a bit more serious. It doesn't seem that the annual plan should simply be voted through on the nod. There may be a reason why a table of individual expenditure capital items should not add up. It's not clear to me what it would be. You may also want to seek assurances that all the other tables in the plan add up as well. Thank you again for your time today.
Thank you, Michael. I'm looking at page 60. Could you point out the column that you think doesn't add up, please? Thank you.
Can I?
Sorry.
Yes, I can. Page 60. Yeah, it's on the page 60 of your appendices. It's the second to last column. It adds up to $17 million. It should add up to $27 million. The first column in that table also doesn't add up, but I thought the most important one was the spending figure for the annual plan rather than LTP forecast.
Thank you. Mr. Best, Johnny?
Thanks for coming. I just have, you just mentioned that, that central government sort of puts costs onto local government, and I know that that it is a fact that central government does put a lot of legislation on which council has to deal with. LGNZ is supposed to advocate on behalf of local government. Do you think that they're actually, to hopefully reduce these costs and make things better for local government, do you think that they're actually being effective in that role, or that central government isn't listening?
Look, sorry, I'm in no position to make a comment on the effectiveness of local government New Zealand. I would note that a number of councils have chosen to withdraw from local government New Zealand, so they're obviously making a judgment by voting with their feet, but I'm in no position, or Consumer Ratepayers is in no position to make an assessment of that.
Councillor Hanford.
Kia ora, Michael. Thanks for coming in and speaking to us this morning. You mentioned that you feel that the kind of level of which we're seeing rates rise is very much a political decision. I'm just posing the question to you, if you were in our seats, which activities would you want to see potential levels of service changed in, and what kinds of things do you think we should be scrutinising further to try and achieve some more cost savings to then see a decrease in that rates rise?
Yeah. If I was in, so two parts to that, to my answer to that. I think you should look very hard at what's where you have increased expenditure in the last 3 years, because there are some kind of light items where there are very significant increases in individual expenditures. And through the work that we've done through Consumer Ratepayers, we kind of look at well, what's the performance measures and metrics kind of around all of those sorts of things. And to a very large part in those areas where there have been significant increases, the performance measure is to spend money. There are no kind of deliverables, there are no metrics, there are no kind of accountabilities, just if you spend the money. And I think that you can demand more in terms of accountability for the money that you have put in. And secondly, just ask, well, what have we got for the increases that we have? The second part to my answer is that Consumer Ratepayers will be holding meetings during the run-up to the election on the 11th of October. We'll have more to say about where those opportunities are at that time.
Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Michael. I always enjoy your mind, because it's very sharp. Just could you comment on your perspective on, the annual plan is the overarching directive that, the long-term plan is the overarching directive which feeds into the annual plan. So this council set a long-term plan targeting 7% rates increase for the next 10 years, essentially doubling our rates, with the intent of paying down debt at about year 7 or 8, give or take. Now, we've delivered, or this annual plan is delivering 6.9. So, in fact, would you not say the council has done what they said they were going to do? Because no matter how many savings we were going to get, if we got it down to, 4%, that surplus was going to be paid down on debt, because the long-term plan targeted 7%. So the issue is not the annual plan, the issue is the long-term plan. Is it?
Yeah, look, I think there's a number of kind of dimensions to that. One, I think that's a fair reflection, in the sense that the council has talked about its long-term strategy for debt reduction, and I think I've spoken at least on 3 occasions to this group that I think that is misplaced, and that there is not a debt problem for this council to manage. Other councils have a debt problem, but you are in the fortunate position that I do not think that, and Consumer Ratepayers do not think that you've got a debt problem that needs to be addressed. The second part of that would be, under the long-term plan, you don't actually start reducing debt until about year 5. So the expenditure increase for this financial year is not about debt reduction, it's being driven by other choices that you have made as a council. And so I don't think the argument about debt reduction kind of really is in play for this financial year. The third part would be is that in our view that you should be more actively engaging with your community on the annual plan, even though it is just year 2 of the long-term plan. I know that there is a view around this table that you don't need to talk to your community because this is year 2 of something that you've already promulgated. I think that is disrespectful to your community, particularly when a lot of them are doing it tough.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Michael, I also enjoy your submissions. I'll take exception to one thing. I don't, and I know it's a bit of a party political broadcast, but I think it's an unjust claim to say that councillors simply don't care. If you want to name any individual councillor around the table who you really think doesn't care, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't do that. It's easy to do a blanket thing and say you all just don't care. But when you have to individualise that, then I think it drives home that that's not the case. My assurance is that I care, and I think everybody around the table cares. It might not manifest itself the way you want.
Councillor Wilson?
Well, it's pretty much about that. But the question I was going to ask is the one that Sophie raised as well, and that is what, if you want to make cuts, what would you cut? But I'll take the point that these are going to get raised over a period anyway.
Yeah. So I think in terms of the question about whether you care, I mean, we look at voting records. You all vote for this. Year on year, you vote for it. You're all going to vote for it today. If you really think that this is, and that you do care, and you do think this is imposing a significant and unreasonable burden on your community, you should vote against this, councillor.
Yeah, that's a matter of opinion. Councillor Coe?
Thank you, Michael. You've always got some interesting points up your sleeve to tell us about. Look, you mentioned that we have a bit of a cost-plus mentality in council. So what process would you see we should take in terms of setting rates? Is it, let's pick a number and then fit our costs within that? What should that number be? And how would, if we change service levels, that we are required to consult on that. So how would we go about consulting on which bits to chop out and which bits to leave in? Bearing in mind that we have a very diverse community here who have a whole range of priorities. So, some people are fans of sports fields, other people are fans of libraries, and it's pretty hard to get agreement on what we should cut back on. So, what would be your approach if you were sitting at this table? How would you suggest we go about setting rates and deciding what to spend money on, and how do we work with the community on that?
Yeah. Okay. So there's many parts of that question. Thank you, Liz. Look, in terms of kind of the underlying kind of approach to setting rates, you need an anchor. So you're always going to have more demands to spend money, because it's not your money, it's somebody else's money that you're spending, and so people will come to you at this table and always kind of make a claim to you, look, can you just spend a little bit more money on this? Can you spend a little bit more money on that? You'll get it endlessly. When I worked in the Treasury, the way we used to kind of deal with that sort of thing is you have an anchor. You have a bottom line, and therefore you're forced into kind of prioritising what fits above the line and what fits below the line.
So just explain anchor, sorry.
Anchor. You set a limit. So your limit can be rates as a proportion of median income. You could set a limit to sort of say it's no more than X percent. There's a number of ways that you can set limits. You used to have a limit of saying that rate should be no more than 5% of median income, and in the long-term plan you increased that to 7%. So you lifted your fiscal anchor to allow more spending, to allow greater rates increases than would otherwise be the case than if your fiscal anchor had been 5%. wherever you set the, and when you set it at 7%, then the long-term plan blows the 7% because by year 10 of the long-term plan, you get to 7.5%. So much for that fiscal anchor. You know, you're not even following your own rules. Set your limit, and then you've got to make judgments, right? You know, people will always come to you making bids to spend somebody else's money, and you've got to apply judgment around about what fits above the line and fits below the line. Without that, you're stuffed, you know, because you'll always just accede to the next bright idea that comes to the table. In terms of things, coming back to Councillor Hanford's question, I think the things that concerned ratepayers would have in mind of where you can be more economical doesn't need service cuts. It doesn't need that you cut your library hours or you cut your swimming pool hours or you close this facility. There are other parts of your budget that I think that we think that you can manage much more carefully and much more tightly. And again, we'll talk about that in the run-up to the election campaign. Otherwise, you'll steal all our ideas, Liz, you know.
Oh, that would be terrible.
You know, we've got to hold on to our kind of proprietary information just for a little bit longer.
We do look at affordability. You realise that that's kind of like our benchmark, or our anchor, if you like, is the affordability. And we get audited on that.
But you increased your anchor. You increased your affordability anchor, so you could spend more. It's quite deliberate. And then once you lifted your anchor to spend more, your long-term plan blows it. You know, so actually, it's not an anchor at all, Liz. You know, it's just it's a thing you promulgate.
We don't debate with public speakers.
I look forward to debating with you later in the year, Michael.
Brilliant.
We do have a couple more questions, but can we keep the questions and the answers really brief, please? Because we want to get onto the reports, if that's okay. We always love chatting to you. The last time we talked to you, it took 45 minutes.
It did, yes.
If we do that today, we're going to blow out our time. So quick question from Jocelyn and one, please, and from Kathy, and then we'll move on. Thank you.
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you, Michael, for coming along today. So the second point that you talked about today was the flood mapping model, and you made the comment about how that process has run. I have not particularly asked any questions about this, but one of the things I just wanted to clarify with you, or ask a question of you, is that it's from what you have said, and so what I have read online is that the models, the data.
So the flood modelling isn't actually on the agenda today. So I'm not going to allow that question unless it's about the annual plan in particular.
So, Madam Chair, I think it can be covered on part of the annual plan, because the annual plan is about not only about the rates rise, but the expenditure that money is going to be spent on. Part of the money you're going to be spending money on next year is on the flood mapping. So I would suggest that's well within scope.
So if it's in terms of the expenditure on the flood mapping, I'm happy to allow it, Councillor Provanov, but we're not going to go into individual activities within your annual plan because we could be here all day.
Yes, thank you. So there is more work that needs to be done on the models. So the models that have gone out for consultation are not the final models. How is that going to be consulted on further down the line, which will add more cost to the process?
Look, I'm not I can't answer that question. My point was simply around about the engagement approach. You know, I know people.
So I don't think the engagement approach to the flood mapping is part of the annual plan discussion, really. So I'm going to move on to Kathy. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, I mean this in a really nice way, but just wondering, had you thought about standing for council so that you can see from where we're sitting what we need to go through when we go through the annual plan?
Yes, I think we should talk about that later in the year.
Thank you very much for your time today, Michael. Really appreciate it,
Okay,
as always.
Thank you so much.
Tanya Lees, on behalf of CALM.
Good morning. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak on behalf of CALM, a community-based organisation made up of residents who are concerned by the continual erosion of our private property rights by Kapiti Coast District Council. Imagine our surprise, whilst still reeling from the repercussions of the Takutai Kapiti's Coastal Advisory Panel's recommendations, to learn that another report has been undertaken in secrecy, this time by Awa Environmental, and apparently to update flood maps using outdated data. How much of the ratepayers...
Tanya, could you point to the report that you're presenting on the agenda, please?
I'm speaking about the annual plan, and this is part of it, the flood mapping.
Could you please give us a page in the annual plan that
No,
we can refer to?
I don't know.
As I don't think that this is in the annual plan.
Well, Democracy Services let me, so they must think so.
Because apparently you were speaking to that item on the report, the annual plan.
I'm speaking about the annual plan, and that's included in there, isn't it?
Well, can you point us to the...
I don't have it with me. I can't do that right now.
Okay, Michael might be able to help us. It would just be useful for us to know what we're referring to in the report.
All right, it's item 10.2, Appendix 1, page 29.
Okay, thank you very much.
How much of the ratepayers' hard-earned money has propped up this latest lemon? And why were we not consulted on this beforehand? We note it leans heavily on the Jacobs report, which is an insult. For several years now, CALM and Coastal Ratepayers United have been emphasising the shortcomings of that report, which is based on implausible science and unlikely scenarios, namely the use of RCP 8.5. I mean, how many times do we honestly have to say it? It's about as likely as a comet hitting the car park outside. As it's only a vulnerability and susceptibility assessment, it can't even be used for planning purposes. In other words, it isn't worth the paper it's printed on. Unlike the DeLonghi report, of course, which identifies only 49 properties at risk and no threat to any others. I would also like to draw attention to the fact that Cruise members raised $20,000 of their own money to commission the report. At CALM's third public meeting at Southwoods a year ago, we highlighted how insurance companies were beginning to pull out of the Kapiti property market. Mayor Holborough uttered those words, "I'm just as shocked as you are." Well, since then, things have got a whole lot worse, and it will continue to do so now the flood maps are out, affecting 4,000 properties in our region. In sheer desperation, many residents have approached CALM with comments such as, "We don't understand why our property has been singled out and our neighbours haven't, especially since we're on higher ground than they are. Many have never experienced ponding or flooding before, yet are suddenly at imminent risk. Others talk about ponding issues solely due to the fact that council appears to have stopped clearing out stormwater drains. Insurance retreat is happening in Kapiti in real time, and CALM hears distressing stories from many members of the public on a daily basis. For example, "Hi Tanya, my rental insurance went up 40% last year, was reduced to 30% with a discount. I increased my excess to $1,000 to bring down the cost as well. Cannot sustain annual hikes as I cannot increase rents at the same percentages that rates and insurance increase. Increasing rent is very difficult in this market." Another resident wrote, "The new insurance premium on our rental property is up 22% from last year's 4% increase. It's the same property we have been insuring for over 20 years. A friend said that their latest insurance renewal went up by 35%, and this is in real time, so they better use the right science to update their flood maps." Someone else said, "I was just looking at alternative insurance companies, home and contents, for comparisons with our current insurance company's quote. It's not what it used to be, that's for sure." A question that popped up on the online form for state insurance was, "According to your local council, is your rental property at risk of flooding, inundation, land instability, falling debris, erosion or subsidence?" The process was so frustrating, controlled and demanding personal details that I put an end to it all. And another, "I was just getting a quote from Tower for a property in Paikakariki. This is what came back. Given details of location, cannot offer cover May 2025. One property owner, a former accountant, told us that due to increased insurance costs on their property, they had to cut back on other expenses, so disposable income such as supporting local cafes or other businesses suffers. And apparently, with some insurance companies, they say it's not specifically about your individual property being at risk, but takes in the surrounding neighbourhood. We have also heard anecdotal evidence that one individual contacted 7 insurance companies and only 2 would consider insuring her. If you combine this with the recent rates increases, you will see that you
Sorry,
have...
Tanya, your 5 minutes has expired.
It's not. I know this is hard for you to listen to. I'm almost finished. If you could just let me finish.
Your time has expired, Tanya.
I would like to
And
keep
in
going
future,
if that's okay.
If you want to come and talk to us about items that aren't on the agenda, I suggest you come during public forum.
You know,
Thank
you
very
like
much
to
for your
shut people down when you don't like what's been said. This
we
is
have a
about the
timer
people
here.
of Kapiti, and
You've
this
had
is how
5
it's
minutes to share
impacting them,
your thoughts,
okay?
Tanya.
This is really unfair, and it's very undemocratic of you to
Thank you for
do
your time
this.
today, Tanya. Okay, so now we have Patricia Stewart on behalf of Ngā Manu.
Kia ora koutou.
Thank you for coming along today.
I'm Pat Stewart. I'm chair of the Ngā Manu Trust, and I have with me Anna Mackenzie-Hawea, who's the general manager. I've also behind me, I've got the deputy chair, Carol Allen, and we're very happy to be here today. And thank you for taking the time to listen to us. The purpose of our presence is because on your agenda is the revised MOU between Council and Ngā Manu. Just a little bit of background, this predates the COVID-19 pandemic. It was signed off in 2019, and actually before I was on the board. And it occurred during the time when under consideration was provincial growth funding for a significant project at Ngā Manu, which ultimately failed. And then subsequent to that, there was another one. So through that process, the relationship with the council has evolved and significantly developed. At the moment, we believe that we have a very close working relationship, and we enjoy being part of the wider Kapiti family in terms of what we offer in terms of the community, but also hopefully the impact that we have on the economy. Anna's going to give you a little bit of an update of how things are going, but before she does that, I'll just say that we support the ongoing nature of having an MOU. We appreciate having Morag Tamia Tani, who is part of your team, attend our board meetings as an advisory trustee. This is a very valuable connection, and we would like this obviously to continue. So I'll just hand over to Anna, and she can give you an update on how things are going with us.
Kia ora koutou, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here to provide a brief update on our progress under the MOU and the partnership with Council, and to highlight the tangible outcomes that your support has helped us to achieve. Council funding of $264,000 has been pivotal. Beyond direct impact, using it as co-funding, it has helped us to unlock a Lotteries Environment and Heritage Grant, which has enabled us to deliver high-impact projects that otherwise wouldn't have been possible. Our overarching goal has been to attract more visitors to the reserve and to Kapiti by enhancing the end-to-end visitor experience. We've done this in 3 ways. Firstly, within the reserve itself, in late 2024, we opened Picky's Perch, an immersive exhibit launched by Mayor Janet. It shares the story of the Kereru and its role in forest regeneration, taking visitors on a journey through Kapiti's ecological past, present and future. We also replaced ageing bridges with wider, flatter structures to improve accessibility for all. These are the first step towards a yellow brick road, a well-marked, inclusive trail connecting all major points of interest in the reserve. Secondly, we've been increasing visibility beyond the reserve. We've relaunched with a new website, please check it out. Built a new booking system which is accessible by international tour operators, and we've grown our digital presence through engaging storytelling across the web and social platforms. And we've thirdly upgraded our Theo's Cottage accommodation. We've created a premium eco accommodation option here in Kapiti, and it has had a real impact. This year to date, April and May, we have grown our income from the rental of Theo's Cottage 5-fold versus the same period last year. So the outcomes are measurable growth. Between 2019, when we signed the MOU, and 2024, our visitor numbers grew from 18,816 to 28,677, a 52% increase. Over the same period, our trading income more than doubled, showing not only an increased footfall, but also strengthening financial position, which means we can continue to operate. So what's next? We're excited to move forward with the Ngārara, or reptile, and the Tuna, or eel, zones. These are developed in collaboration with Te Atiawaki Whakarongotai. We're also planning to upgrade Theo's Cottage even more, including a new bathroom and kitchen, to further improve the overnight offering to an international tourism standard. The mural project, which is in collaboration with both the Youth Council and the Council, will also create a welcoming and impactful entrance to the reserve, and our aim is to install the mural during the Kapiti Art Trail in November. Thanks again for your continued support. The results speak for themselves, and we're proud to be building something of lasting value for the community and for Kapiti as a whole. Ngā mihi nui.
Thank you. Bang on your 5 minutes. So thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate the work that Ngā Manu does, of course, and it's much beloved to us all. So what I'm going to do is we have nothing under items 8 or 9, so I'll invite you to stay at the table for the report, which I'll bring forward. 10.6 Ngā Manu Memorandum of Understanding, which is on page 45, and we'll deal with that first. Oh, we've got you at the table. Thank you. Oh, we've got a question first from Councillor Pravanov.
Yeah, thank you. Through the Mayor, thank you so much for coming along today, and thank you for all the work that you do in this area. And I think it's something that it's a gem, and I think it's not as hidden as it was. My question is, you've increased the visitor numbers dramatically recently. How much of that is actually from our local community or from outside the district? Do you know that information at all?
It varies year to year depending on what's happening. So, for example, when we had the FIFA World Cup, that was much more international tourism than it is this year, for example. So it varies year to year, Jocelyn, I would say, and it's impossible to put an exact number on it. But I would say that we are really focusing on bringing people in from an international tourism perspective. That's our focus at the moment, is building that part of our visitation. Yeah.
Well, I think it certainly is an international facility. Thank you. All the best.
Councillor Wilson?
Yeah, just to reiterate, those visitor numbers are staggering, and it just shows how important Ngā Manu is to tourism for Kapiti. Yeah.
Thanks, Nigel.
Just acknowledging that.
Great.
And can I have a chat to you about your website at some support?
Yep.
Councillor Halliday.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, and certainly endorse the comments that are made. Absolutely fantastic up over there. Look, my question was, we invested some money into you guys, and we pretty much became what I would call a cornerstone sponsor, if you like. How much did you actually manage to receive out of the lotto? So I was just curious what sort of figures you got on the grants. How were you able
from the lotteries grant?
You were able to leverage that money.
Yeah, so we got 200,000 from the lotteries grant, but we've got other grants as well. So we recently got a Transpower grant as well, and so that's going to form part of the Tuatara enclosure for the Ngārara, or reptile zone. So it continues to be pivotal that we got that support from the council, because we can continue to build on it and get more co-funding.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much. So we will now move to the report, 10.6. Morag, thanks. Well, I'll let you introduce it.
Kia ora koutou, ko Morag Taimalea Tāne toku ingoa. I am the Council Advisory Trustee for Ngā Manu. I have had the pleasure of being in that position since 2019 when the MOU was first signed. I do check in regularly whether they would like somebody else to take the position, but I'm glad to say they've kept me on till this point. In terms of the paper, I will take it as read, but I think there's a few points I just wanted to make in terms of the MOU. I think the real value from this is that it's incredibly mana enhancing for both organisations. It's a partnership based on respect, trust, and understanding of each other's roles, and the day-to-day connections mean that any issues or opportunities can be identified really early and built on. So Anna gave some really good examples there. The mural recently is just one where officer knowledge can actually make a difference. For example, doing the mural, doing the arts trail time could make a really big difference in terms of Ngā Manu and that visitation. But the other thing I want to say would be around my experiences as Council Advisory Trustee and what I've seen from the board. They've strengthened themselves at both a governance and operational level. They do an incredible amount of mahi through reviewing and updating strategic purpose, vision, kaupapa. They've recruited additional trustees to ensure diversity of voice and strength on its board. They've deepened their relationship with mana whenua. They've restructured their visitor experience, including relaunching its higher value packages and guided tours and redesigning the website. They've developed a strong fundraising strategy as well. They don't just come to council and ask for funding, they're actually out there constantly looking for opportunities themselves. So they're a really strong organisation, and it is a pleasure actually to be on the position of Council Advisory Trustee. And other than that, I will take the paper as read and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? I'm not seeing any, so I'll therefore move to the recommendations. A, B, C and D, which involve a couple of amendments to the Memorandum of Understanding to update it and also to strengthen the advisory role, and delegates the Mayor and Chief Executive to sign the amended memorandum. Happy to come up to Ngā Manu and do that if that suits. So I'm looking for a mover. Moved by Councillor Wilson, seconded by Councillor Provanov. Right of introduction.
I will just speak briefly to, I think the MOU is a success story, thanks to Morag for representing council in that process. I'll just briefly say that Kapiti is the beneficiary of the work that Ngā Manu does. It's an essential part of the tourism of Kapiti. If you've got anybody coming from anywhere and you tell them where to go, you tell them Southwards and you tell them Ngā Manu. Those are two, they're standards, right? And the standard at Ngā Manu, it's a world-class facility. People come from across the other side of the planet and they have a look and they go, wow, this is cool. And so, fantastic, great work.
Councillor Coe.
Look, this has to be a win-win, surely. I think it's a sign that we're really strengthening that relationship. And I guess, we've heard speakers this morning saying, why don't you cut back on spending, stop giving money to places like Ngā Manu, I guess they're kind of saying. But, we've seen, I've always been a fan of what I call leverage, and we spoke about that, didn't we? Mm-hmm. About how we can give a small amount of assistance to an organisation like Ngā Manu, and they can take that and multiply it through using that to get additional funds. So, it's, to me, that's a way to attract more funding into our area to create a wonderful asset that's going to bring tourist economic development, etc., etc. A great return on investment. And I think we need to look for more opportunities to do that sort of thing. Going forward, and we'll all benefit out of it, including the environment. So, yeah, this has my full support. Thank you.
Councillor Halliday.
Through you, Madam Chair, and I'm really just going to echo the views of previous speakers. You guys do a fantastic job. It's an absolute awesome place, and it has a really strong future as well. The growth, and I don't like using the word growth because when we talk environment, we don't like saying growth. But the expansion of the kaupapa that you do there, perhaps is a better word, I'm really looking forward to see how that evolves over the years to come. Because I think it'll, it already is a jewel in our crown, but I think from a regional perspective and even a national perspective, I see that role just expanding. I just wanted to thank the report. I didn't realise, I know we've got a relationship with Ngā Manu, I just didn't realise the depth of the relationship as such, which I fully support. You know, it's one of the reasons we all live in the Kapiti. It's a fantastic place, you know, and we're very, very blessed to have a lot of people that do put their hands up in the community and do put themselves forward with regards to see our community move forward and be a better place to be. And you guys just exemplify that as such. Yeah, no brainer on this one, but yeah, I just wanted to say thanks. You're doing great work, and it's fantastic, the relationship with council's working in such a positive way. We do get bagged a fair bit with regards to our and what we do, but this is a result, a good positive result of what we do and how our community and how we can work in with our community. So I think the key thing here is the leveraging. That's what I really liked about the approach that you took, and I know that would have been nice to have leveraged more and actually been able to have done more within what you did, but that's the progressive steps, and we're in the same boat. We'd like to be doing more, but we've only got that's the rub, that's the balance, and that's what we're juggling with constantly. So thank you very, very much for your work.
Yeah, before I pass to Councillor Wilson for a right of reply, I'll just add my 2 cents to that. We'd like to support Ngā Manu more, but you know, through the last long-term plan process, we were going through a process where we were trying to find savings and couldn't support Ngā Manu as much as we would have liked. And that you still are committed to this meaningful relationship that we have, and that you're pushing through and finding funding. I've helped out a little bit with fundraising for Ngā Manu before, so I know what a challenge it is. But it's also a really easy sell to people who want to fund, because it ticks so many boxes. It's not only an incredible environmental facility, but it also has social benefits, educational benefits. It is accessible, and it's becoming more accessible with the new bridges that you were able to build. And it also has economic developments with bringing in tourists into our district. So just the benefits are wide-ranging and manifold. So thank you so much for the work that you and the team do, and we look forward to this next phase in our relationship. So with that, I'll pass to Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, just to reiterate that, and to again, as Liz was saying about the value of leveraging. So that's why I think council funding is important here. And the value of the MOU is in the awareness that brings about the need for connectedness. So, for instance, planning with cycleways and walkways, etc., to be as inclusive as possible with Ngā Manu. And I think the MOU probably strengthens the resolve to do that as well. So, yeah, just again, fantastic. Thank you for all the work you guys are doing.
Okay, I'll put that to the vote. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? That's carried. Thank you very much. We're going to take a short break now for 10-15 minutes, and then we'll come back to the road renaming paper. Thank you.